Good morning, viewers, and welcome back to the Tobago Updates morning show, coming to you here live from the Port Mall in Scarborough, Tobago. As we continue this morning, we're heading straight on into our first segment. We will be chatting with Clyde Weatherhead, and we will be speaking this morning as we chat on the Tobago House of Assembly and the TTPS Voicegate investigation. And Clyde Weatherhead is an attorney at law and former PSA president. And we should have him on the line at this point. Good morning to you, Clyde Weatherhead.
Hi, good morning, and good morning to your viewing public.
All right, good morning to you. So, as we get the conversation started this morning, we want to firstly get a sense from you. Is this something new? You have, been based on your experience and your expertise, the entry of what is now this very controversial, as is being commonly referred to as voice gate and this voice tape associated with officials within the Tobago House of Assembly. What was your initial take as this entered the public domain?
Well, there were different aspects to this. One was the fact that there was no response by the chief secretary. I wrote a Facebook page on that, and I sent a letter to the newspapers. Um, and subsequently, the CHS chief sec, he did respond, and the issues that arise there is that this was a recording which he confirmed was a recording of himself and others speaking about a matter which possibly is a legal issue in the sense that it can be seen as a conspiracy to operate outside of the law in terms of the use of public funds for private gain. Um, Question of conspiracy doesn't require that something is actually carried out. You and I can plan to do something, but we end up not doing it. But the fact is, we have planned.
Okay. Mr. Weatherhead, Police Commissioner Earl Christopher had indicated that there would be an investigation into this matter. We've seen over the weekend where police officers have been searching the homes and properties of several of the secretaries or assemblymen of the Tobago House of Assembly. I want you to speak this morning to the legality, um, you know, the concern maybe that assemblymen, members of the public, the legality of this search.
Well, first of all, the question is that the police have powers to search, and those powers, there are provisions in both the Summary Courts Act and the Indictable Offences Act um, for obtaining and carrying out warrants for and carrying out searches at private premises. Um, First of all, the police have to apply
And
for a search warrant.
just before you go on, let me just clarify here. Let me just allow me to clarify. Not assemblymen, but rather THA officials. THA officials, not assemblymen.
Oh, okay. So like public officers
Yes.
or employees of the THA.
Yes.
Well, if this matter arose out of the voice note or the recording, which the chief sec has confirmed, what is the first of all, I am puzzled as to why a THA employee would be involved in any police investigation. Is it that an employee is going to say that he was present and heard THA elected officials having a strategy meeting? What is the purpose? And if they wanted to find that out, if somebody was present, then all the police would have to do is question the person. How does a search of somebody's premises um, take that any further in that respect? So what are the police searching for? Are they searching for the voice, the recording? is the recording not available otherwise, and the police could simply ask for it, or they have it, in fact, because I keep hearing portions of it being released on the news, so it's available somewhere. So it's not necessarily in somebody's house. Um, I understand that some laptop was seized by the police, and certainly we have that would bring up the memory of certain laptops and phones and so on of government officials being seized by the police previously in Trinidad. Um, but the question is that the police have to first obtain a search warrant. They have to go on oath, swear an affidavit to point out that there is an offense which they are investigating, and there's certain evidence which they believe um, can be found at a particular residence, and the officer is named, and the named officer has to be present. And if the police come to search your premises, they must read the warrant to you, and you can allow them in. If you don't allow them in, they have authority to break down your outer door in order to access your property. But the question is, has the search warrant been legally obtained? And that issue came up in several cases over the last few years, um, including a matter involving the Express newspaper, when there was a search carried out there where the police were looking for the source that provided information to the newspaper for the production of an article, um, which really was a violation of the newspaper's principle of protecting sources. Then there was the raid on Jagriti radio and TV station, and the court eventually had to tell the police commissioner he must produce the warrant to the radio station when they had refused to show the warrant. So the obtaining of the warrant in the first place has to be based on fact, has to be based on probable evidence, and the warrant can be issued by a magistrate or a judge. We have had a case in the past where JPs are issuing warrants, and JPs are not legally trained people. And in one case, a JP agreed to a search warrant, but the warrant was very deficient legally. And the High Court judge who was dealing with that case, he made the point that there was need to update the law and the police standing orders and regulations in respect of obtaining search warrants. So the question here is, has the warrant been properly obtained? And was the search itself legal in the sense of how it was carried out?
Mm.
What becomes in the circumstances that we're currently faced with, it is alleged that the individuals in question that would have been able to bring it to this point, specific at that for a warrant to be issued, it is alleged that it must require the input of top officials to get it to this stage. From where you sit as an attorney, how does one advance to the stage of being able to have a warrant to do such? Just for the
Well, it
information and
doesn't
education of the
necessarily
public.
involve anybody in the THA. The police said they were investigating the matter because there was a public broadcasting of this recording. So the police investigation doesn't have to come from anybody inside of the THA. There was a call by the minority leader for the police to investigate, and I don't know that the minority leader can direct the police to do anything. He's an elected official, so he has no business directing the police in the first place. He has no authority to direct the police. He can, like many politicians, make calls for the police to investigate this or that, email gate and all these things. Many people call for it, but no politician could have told the police to actually go and investigate the matter.
Mr. There's some who say that this is making this that the minority is making a mountain out of a molehill, that they are suggesting something that is a non-issue in some opinions. What do you say to that? I'm looking at the live here, and there's some of our viewers on the live who simply do not agree. This one says, "I don't know why this sounds like a joke to me, or am I missing something? Is there an issue, or is it a mountain being made out of a molehill?"
Well, like I said initially, the only legal issue involved in that recording is, were people discussing using public funds for private gain, meaning that that would be corruption, um, and whether that is something that has to be investigated. Well, certainly the chief sec has said that the recording was correct. It was live. It was him. And so, what are the police investigating? Are they investigating that what was said was correct? Well, the chief sec said so. So I don't know what they're investigating in that direction. Are they trying to find out who was at the meeting? Then you go and you ask the chief sec who was there. He already said publicly I was there, and we were having a strategy meeting. So who was there? What are you searching people's homes for? To determine who was at a meeting? Um, if it was an official meeting, there would be minutes. So that doesn't have to be present in anybody's house. So the question is, was there a conspiracy to use public funds for private gain? And that question, you bring in people, you question them, and um, I don't, unless they want to see whether it was carried out. And if it was carried out, the question there was, do we hire people to do propaganda for the on behalf of some of the elected members of the THA? And certainly you can speak to the THA officials in respect of have people been hired, um, ask for records whether they were hired, and if they were hired, those records are in the offices of the THA. They're not in somebody's house. That's not a private transaction.
Would you say that it is possible that these are the targets that are currently happening by the police in terms of through the warrant and the searches taking place is in an effort to try to provide some proof as it relates to the issue of confirming that public funds would have been spent in an effort to promote propaganda?
Well, the spending of public funds is a matter of public accounting, and the THA records would deal with the spending of public funds. THA records are not in anybody's private home, they're in the offices of the THA. So even if it was necessary to search for records in terms of spending of the THA, then the place to go is to the THA. It's not in anybody's home. So the question here is, like I said, was the warrant or were the warrants properly obtained? Is there an offense which the police are saying they are seeking evidence of? And are they saying that there are specific items that they are, believe is present in somebody's house? And were they then granted the warrant on that basis? Did they go to the homes? Did they read the warrant to the persons? Did they conduct the search properly? Um, have they recorded what they seized and so on and so on? Those are all matters within the issue of the legality of a search. And therefore, what is the search really for a proper purpose? In the express case, the question was in the court matter, was this a proper reason to search somebody's offices? This is a newspaper, and newspapers have certain protection under our constitution. And certainly the question of protection of sources, and is the police business to try and determine who is a newspaper source, and the court frowned on that. So what really is the purpose of these searches? If it is some kind of political vendetta, then certainly the persons whose homes were searched can make complaints to the court, just like Jagriti and Express and a gentleman whose home was searched in Point Kumana and by the Telecommunications Authority and the police because they thought he had radio communications equipment. Um, so it has the possibility that if there was an improper search, that the persons who are affected should raise this matter with the court.
Okay. Um, I want to thank you this morning, Mr. Weatherhead, for taking the time to chat with us this morning on these issues. And I'm just we heard the information that you shared. We heard what you had to say with regards to the legality of the police doing their job based on information that they would have, based on the necessary steps that they would have had to take. My question to you this morning is, with all of this, with all that we've heard, with all that we've heard this morning, is there what is the way forward? What is the next step? What in terms of these officials, what should be their next step?
Well, like I said, the courts of Trinidad and Tobago are there to deal with issues of this nature. If someone feels that their rights were violated, then you go to the court. If elected officials were subject to search, and it happened in the case of the Kamla Prasad Bisesa and others whose phones and laptops were seized by the police, they went to court and the court dealt with it. But if somebody is an elected official, if they are a politician and they feel aggrieved by a search, they're also politicians and they also can speak to the public and they can raise their voice. Um, but ultimately, whether a search is legal or illegal, whether it is proper, whether it is a matter of some improper police behavior, these matters have to be taken to the court, and the court has to decide these matters. Um, and that can be urgent hearings on these matters have been asked for in the past, and they've been dealt with urgently. And certainly, if something is seized from you by an improper or illegal search, then you are entitled to damages in terms of compensation and so on. So all these matters, like I say, um, particularly those who are not elected officials of the THA, whose homes are searched, they should be speaking to their lawyers or should have been since the weekend.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time this morning to chat with us on these issues. And the viewers, we just chatted there with Mr. Clyde Weatherhead, attorney at law, former PSA president, on the issue of the THA and the TTPS Voicegate investigation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Interesting perspectives being expressed here, and coming from the attorney in terms of suggestions that considerations ought to be given to whether or not, and how the warrant would have been obtained. I suppose very interesting indeed. It's almost as though this matter continues to develop one upon the other, and we're looking to see what the ultimate outcome is really going to be in the circumstances surrounding this entire audio tape that came out some time ago.
One of the questions being asked, Julien, is planning a strategy in a meeting corruption? I need someone to help me to make sense of this. And our audit shows corruption. I heard nothing about investigation. Planning a strategy is corruption, really. And we heard the chief speak to the issue that there was a strategy meeting, there was a planning meeting. Is it that what happens in a strategy meeting, shouldn't it remain confidential? Shouldn't it remain within the four walls of the meeting space?
Well, I think the bigger issue that's being raised here is if the conversation seemed to have suggested, and that's what the attorney was just alluding to, conspiracy to defraud in some way, form, or fashion. So, based on what he would have said, even if you don't carry it out, whether or not the conversation seemed to suggest that, but I'm not exactly sure, and we'd really have to wait to see what the TTPS, how far that goes in the context of really determining as to whether or not this was a conspiracy of sorts, or whether or not these actions did take place, in the circumstances. But it's a very interesting development, because it was the chief secretary who also made statements when he spoke on the occasion, indicating that this kind of action or engagement, has been used by many other political parties prior. But I suspect the big difference in the circumstances that some would say there was no audio recording of that of sorts. So it will be very interesting to see what the outcome is here in these circumstances.
Yep.
All right. So, viewers, we prepare to head into further discussions this morning as we speak about eating habits. What's eating the children? And we'll be chatting with Rodney Pigott, chairman of the Tobago CivilNet, and Dr. Darlene Harris, pediatrician of the Pediatric Society of Trinidad and Tobago. So we look forward to those upcoming discussions. We want to remind you that this is your opportunity to share the live, share the live, share the live.